Who would you take if you had the number one pick?
Wow. I always joke in college I don't have any scholarships, so my opinion doesn't count. But I certainly don't have any draft picks. I definitely don't have the cap space to pay them. But I would take Caleb Williams. Look, the other quarterbacks are great. I think Drake May, if you went back the last 10 drafts, Drake May probably would have been the number one pick in 8 of them, right? Like there's a lot of elite talent there. And obviously Jaden Daniels was the most dynamic player in college football last season. And he's really a testament to quarterback development not being linear. He had a bananas season his freshman year at Arizona State, and then he struggled for a couple of years, and he went to USC, and Brian Kelly, Mike Denbrock, and Joe Sloan, the quarterback coach there, helped him finally develop, which he never really did at Arizona State. So that's a long way to say that I would take Caleb Williams.
ESPN's Pete Thamel joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster in for Rich. What about the next level of quarterbacks, like the Penix, the McCarthys? I always push back on the McCarthy thing. They're saying that, he's a game manager. I hate the whole game manager routine. I think that you're supposed to manage a game if you're a quarterback. Who do you see as the potential to be the top choice amongst the next level down?
Yeah, it's a fascinating class. I think this is a little bit of like the COVID years have given us a bunch of older quarterbacks who, again, didn't develop on a linear scale. You look at Penix, he had injury problems. You look at Bo Nix, he really struggled at Auburn before really finding himself at Oregon. You look at JJ McCarthy. Well, I think any NFL team would take someone who could manage to win 27 out of 28 games, right? That's really the only statistic that matters when you're judging quarterbacks is wins. And he was 27-1 as a starter, obviously won a national title. All very different quarterbacks. And again, sometimes we always start these conversations with the negatives. I'll start with Penix, who I probably am most intrigued by out of that group because the ball leaves his hands, Suzy, so violently. I've never seen in person the ball leave a quarterback's hand just as viciously as it does Michael Penix.
I mean, what do you mean by that?
So when you stand field level, and this is why scouts scout in person, and you watch a quarterback, there's just a certain it's a hard thing to explain, but the ball just bursts out. It's like a rocket ship coming off his hand, and a lot of this comes, and now we get into some draft trope, right? Hand size. Michael Penix has giant hands, not like big fans. Remember, every year, he has small hands, he's not going to make whatever. Michael Penix has giant hands, and that helps you get spin on the ball. One stat that Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, is now at the Seahawks, who was at Washington last year, pointed out that he had more passes completed outside the numbers. Now, he also had the best set of receivers in college football, hands down, not even close. All three of those guys will be top 100 picks in this draft. But Michael Penix can spin it, actually literally spin it. And so it's a really fun thing. Anyone who's in Indy for the Combine who can go field level and watch the ball leave Michael Penix's hand. And it's something that certainly shows up on TV, but in person, it's just a different level when you're at field level and you watch the ball go from Penix. He's remarkable. The negatives are he's had some injury history that's well documented. Some of that was he has not been mobile. Now, he also didn't get sacked, though. I think that's another thing about him. He has the internal clock. It's something like 8 sacks and 1,100 attempts the last 2 years, like a preposterous number. Nobody threw for more yards than him the last few years. Nix was just an efficiency monster at Oregon. There's no other way to say it. He went from like a dance around guy at Auburn who struggled to find himself and really settled in these last 2 seasons under Kenny Dillingham 2 years ago and under Will Stein last year, and just thrived. He always had an NFL arm, and it just needed to come together. And sometimes having superior talent, which Dan Lanning has obviously brought to Oregon, helps bring those things out.
And what about JJ?
Yeah, so JJ, to me, is the most fascinating. He's a wonderful quarterback who just won big game after big game, never flinched. 3rd and 6, there was no quarterback he wanted more in college football than JJ McCarthy the last couple of years. He could beat you with his leg. He could find the tight end. He was crafty. That ball he threw against Ohio State when he threaded the needle is maybe the single most impressive throw of college football last season, because it took some onions to throw it, and it somehow made its way. It made its way through for a critical touchdown in a critical game. The knock on JJ is that he's slight. I mean, you see that picture in front of you there. Bryce Young was criticized for being slight. Now, Bryce was short and slight. So, and Jaden Daniels is a little bit slight of build, just meaning their frame may not be something to build on. And then some of that goes back to these like Parcelsian's ideals, where you want your quarterback to be this big hulking Drew Bledsoe type. But I think I'm not betting against JJ McCarthy. I just watched him win too many big games, complete too many big passes, and really just be the single winningest quarterback in Michigan history.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.